Every 19 minutes, someone dies from an accidental drug overdose. So, by the end of my presentation and the four that follow me, someone will have died because of an accidental drug overdoses. These drug overdoses have a lot to do with the opioid epidemic sweeping America. So, what is an opioid? Opioids are a form of drug that include prescription drugs like oxycodone, but it also includes non-prescribed drugs like heroin and fentanyl. These drugs chemically interact with the opioid receptors on our nerve cells in the brain and nervous system to produce pleasurable effects and relieve pain. These drugs also boost the dopamine in our body, which will get people high. Drug overdose is the leading cause of accidental death in the United States, with around 52,000 lethal drug overdoses in 2015. This number surpasses shooting deaths and fatal car accidents. The opioid addiction is driving the epidemic, with 23,000 deaths related to prescription painkillers or heroin overdoses. That is almost 50% of accidental drug overdoses come from opioids. The reason for this spike in drug-related deaths is because in 2012, 259 million prescriptions were written for opioids. This number is more than enough to give every American adult their own bottle of pills. To put that in perspective, that would mean every single person in our classroom would be in possession of their own bottle of prescribed painkillers. 94% of people in treatment for opioid addiction started with pain pills, but when those pain pills got too hard to get and too expensive, they switched to heroin. Heroin can cost as little as $5, and so this is why heroin contributes to almost half of opioid-related deaths. One of the biggest problems besides drug overdoses is how this epidemic is affecting children.
Opioid epidemic is taking a heavy toll on children of the addicts.
When parents are addicted, locked up, or going into treatment,
what happens to their children?
Opioid abuse has made thousands of Americans incapable of caring for their children. And that has drawn attention to grandparents, many of whom are receiving the same phone call from Child Protective Services or law enforcement.
When you get the call and there's never been a formal removal, the options are going to be come get the kids or they're going into foster care.
I'm sure you had your own plans, right? And then you get this phone call.
My ex-husband that received the call because they knew I was at work, and they did call me to inform me what should we do.
When they get that call and decide to raise their grandchild, they become a new kind of caregiver.
I mean, at that stage, I was already raised my own children, and now you have to start all over.
The grandparents are having to start all over because their grandchildren are coming to them because their children are drug addicts. Either their kids go to the grandparents or the children are being put in the foster care system. In Maine alone, 1,000 kids are born each year addicted to drugs, and most of these children are ending up in the foster care system. In Maine, they have seen nearly a 45% increase in their foster care system since 2011, and these increases are seen throughout the entire country. Massachusetts has had a 19% increase since 2011, and Ohio's foster care system has nearly 60% of its children in the system because of parental drug abuse. Not only does the opioid epidemic have a big effect on overdose deaths, but it is greatly affecting their children and the states. Foster care experts say that because the drug epidemic has intensified during the past 2 years, they are seeing a whole new rush of children enter into the system. Opioids are a lethal drug, and as you can see, are the main cause of accidental deaths in the United States. If the problem does not get addressed, then every 19 minutes someone will continue to die because of a drug overdose, and children will continue to be born without stable parents.